Listen to the river, does it make you wonder how anything could ever stand still? First lightning and then thunder, thunder. The kiss and the rain, love, feel the thrill. I only want you, I only want you. I want what we had. I only want you, I only want you. It's as simple as that.
You're listening to Morning Coffee with Rick Alexander. That introduction music was provided by Brittany Taylor. She's at Barbell Brittany on Instagram. If you guys want to pester her for more music, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but also just give her a follow. She's got an awesome account to follow, honestly. She's a photographer. She's into fitness. She's into singing. She's always mixing it up, and it's super entertaining. If you guys want to connect with me, you can do that at @RickAlexander_ or at Lionheart Radio. Likewise, if you want to push the fast forward button on your personal growth, you can do that at rickalexander.com by registering for the next Clarity Academy, which is a 12-week course all about self-exploration, figuring out who you really are, and then setting your lifestyle up to really so it's ideal for you, for what you want for yourself. You know, like, you don't have to put yourself in a box anymore. You're an adult. You don't have to conform to systems that aren't working for you. You don't have to struggle in vain. You don't have to make yourself miserable. You know, there are better ways to go about this life thing. And I think the best part of the internet and new media is the fact that we're all kind of discovering this. Like, holy shit, we can do this thing different. We actually can be happy. You don't have to be miserable for a paycheck or for benefits or for whatever you've been taught to make a priority in your life. You can have both. So if you're interested in that, rickalexander.com. Final law of a worthy struggle. This one's interesting because this one is a domino. It's a cascading effect across our society, and it's done a lot of damage. The fourth law of a worthy struggle is to never allow struggle to change your disposition. How many times have you seen that? How many times have you seen somebody go out on a limb, the limb breaks, and then they spend the rest of their lives cynical? They tell you how it's not going to work, how what you want to do won't happen, how, you know, like how you have to take the safe route. And it's because they took the safe route. And the reason they took the safe route is they allowed one failure to change their disposition. And that means the world when you find yourself in struggle. I think this is one of the most important parts. This is probably the most important law, although I think they all need to be followed. And here's why. Because it has to do with mindset. And that's what matters the most when you find yourself in struggle. I'm going to talk about creation versus survival mindset. This is something we get deep in the Clarity Academy. But you know, something happens. Most of us are wired for a survival mindset, and that's a biological thing. Like, we're just wired for to pick up or to be specifically sensitive to negative circumstances, and that makes sense, right? So we don't die, so we don't do something too stupid. So that's what you're wired for. But if you want to succeed, like the world that formed us and the world we live in now, they're not necessarily the exact same world. And so if you want to succeed today, or if you want to thrive today, I would say, then what you need is a creation mindset. You need to come to the realization that you're creating your life every day, whatever it is that you want it to be. Now, I'm going to talk about this one for entrepreneurs and business owners specifically, but it totally makes sense regardless of what you're trying to do, because you are legitimately creating your life. I think most of us are accepting our life, and that's a little bit of an issue. Like, I think if you really want to love it, if you want it to be your own, if you want to be inspired by the things that you're doing and the people in your life, then you have to take the time to cultivate those things, to cultivate the passion, to bring the joy, to bring the happiness. Like, that's all things that you need to do. But a lot of times what happens is an entrepreneur will have an idea. They're in a creation mindset at that point. Now, sometimes you see like little bit of survival mindset creep in when they start setting their prices. Like, that was a big struggle for me. It's like, I have a really great idea I want to offer the world. But I'm also scared nobody's going to buy it. So I'm going to slip back into a survival mindset. I'm going to cut the price into a third, and then I'm going to sell it. Well, when you do that, I don't want to get into much of a business conversation here, but when you do that, you're actually skewing your value proposition, which is one of the problems, right? Because they're not going to perceive it to have as much value as you actually put into creating it. But the real way that this really screws us is when we have a creation mindset. We go after the job we want. We create the business we want. We do the things. But then we hit the struggle, right? We hit the failure. We don't get the product market fit we wanted. The job turns out that the grass was a little bit greener on the other side. And then we slip back into a survival mindset. And it's sort of the same idea of like turning and running, law number 2. But sometimes we don't turn and run. We just literally change our disposition, which sets us up to not be able to get through that struggle. If you found yourself in struggle with a creation mindset, the only thing that's going to get you out of it is a creation mindset. To get out of it with some semblance of adaptation or success, to actually get through it, right? You could stay in struggle forever with a cynical mindset. Like you could go into it, it could change your disposition, you slip into a survival mindset, and you could stay there for years, right? Maybe the rest of your life. And that sucks. The reason that has a cascading effect is because then you become the cynical person that actually has a problem with everybody else chasing their dreams because it didn't work for you, because you got hit in the face. And so you assume everyone else is going to get hit in the face. Some people are, some people aren't. But the reality is, again, if you want something great in life, the barrier to entry is struggle. And so don't let it change you. Just let it teach you what it's trying to teach you. Look around for the lesson. What are you missing? That's the answer. I saw this a lot in the military, and I've seen it a lot. I'm sure it happens in the corporate sector too. Like you quit your job because the grass is greener, you want something else for your life, you decided to finally make the jump. You make the jump and you run into a roadblock, or you run into failure, or life is way harder than you thought it was going to be. Yeah, that happens. That doesn't mean your initial desire for something different was wrong. Because that does happen, right? Sometimes we get in our lives and we're going through them and it's what we want them to be, but something feels missing. Like, man, something's not right here. Like the spirit of what I wanted to do is just, it doesn't feel to be like it's here anymore. And so what is the answer in that circumstance? To change your disposition, to realize, to think you were wrong, to tell people like, don't leap, it's a trap. Like that's not the answer, right? The answer is to look for what might be right. I think a lot of times, back to the military example, that it doesn't work out when people become civilians or they grow kind of depressed is because you've risen up to a certain status in the military. And so you have a certain hierarchy and you put in the work to get from really low to higher. And then when you go back into the civilian world, you're kind of back at the bottom, especially if you're trying a new career. And so once you get in that struggle, the problem that's happening here is you've allowed it to change your disposition. There was a reason that you needed something new. And that reason wasn't wrong most of the time. Like most of the time we're pretty in tune. Like we know when we're in a rut or something doesn't feel right or we want something else for our life. But just because you choose something else for your life doesn't mean that it's going to work out at all. It's not a guaranteed. You might have to try 50 things before one works out. There's not a damn overnight success that got there without 10 years in the hopper behind it before you knew their name. That's the reality of this thing. And so don't look at we look at people's highlight reels and we look at other people doing great things. And comparison is the thief of joy. Like reality is like you see other people doing great things and you look at your struggle and it doesn't feel like you're where you need to be. And so you allow it to change your disposition. And if you do that, the only options are to stay there forever or to turn and run and go back to what you were already unhappy with. And I think we both know that those aren't actually going to make you happy. So when you find yourself in struggle, you have to expand your mindset, literally. And it's the hardest thing to do in the world because everything is telling you you're wrong, you're in the wrong place, you went down the wrong road, you hit a roadblock, you failed. And the hardest thing to do in that circumstance is to continue to smile, to continue to have a creation mindset, to continue to look for opportunity. Because that's the only way you're going to get it. You slip into that survival mindset, you won't see the opportunities when they're there. You won't learn the lesson that the struggle is actually trying to teach you. And that's really what struggle is about. So I hope these 4 laws made sense for you. I hope that they got somewhere for you. Love you guys. So I hope that these 4 laws made sense for you. If you guys, hit me up at Rick Alexander _ on Instagram if you want me to elaborate on them. They will all be in my new book because there is a chapter called The 4 Laws of a Worthy Struggle in there. And so pick that up if you're interested in it. But I'm sure this won't be the last time that I talk about struggle because like I said, I live in it. I love you guys. Have a great Tuesday. I'll talk to you later on Morning Coffee.